Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Honda has made it official. It's shipping its car production out of the UK. It says Brexit is not part of the equation. There's a limit, a diminishing one, to the industries in Britain that now employ workers in such numbers. 3,500 in Swindon. And although there are record employment figures out today, if many of the jobs contributing to that figure in the low-skilled service sector, are we storing up long-term problems for our economy? Here's our economics editor, Ben Chu.
Every economy is made up of moving parts. A global economy is made up of countless millions of them. And no British industry is more connected to the rest of the world than our cars. Honda's decision to close its Swindon plant has created local agony.
It's a bit of a kick in the teeth, to be honest. You know.
It's all I've done. It's all I've known. It's this place, and it's going to go. This whole town's just going to be a total mess.
Very bad, because I have a house or mortgage.
But this is part of a much bigger story, one that will shape the fate of not just one town, but an entire nation. A history of the modern British economy can be told through the changing fortunes of its automotive sector.
The men who've picketed quietly here for 15 cold weeks.
In the 1970s, the UK motor industry was afflicted by terrible industrial relations and a chronic lack of international competitiveness. Labour resorted to nationalisation of British Leyland in 1975, but top-down direction and subsidies didn't work. Production slumped in the 1980s, falling to below 1 million units, but it rose steadily in the next 2 decades. 2016 was the second most successful year for UK car production since the record year of 1972. 1.7 million cars were produced, most of them for export. What was responsible for the remarkable renaissance of the UK car industry? Well, large-scale foreign investment induced by Margaret Thatcher's promise that the UK would remain in the European common market. And foreign management techniques improved industrial relations. And these have been trends that have helped the overall UK economy too, not just the car industry. Connectedness and openness to foreign investment, new management techniques, and the invigorating winds of global competition. These are the things that have underpinned our productivity growth and rising wages and salaries. More important, arguably, even than our membership of the single market and the customs union. But now the reborn UK car industry is facing a perfect storm. The diesel scandal has severely hit demand. The slowing global economy, exacerbated by Donald Trump's trade war, is hammering exports. And then there's the threat posed by Brexit to the sector's hyper-efficient, just-in-time supply chains, where components are delivered to UK factories with only seconds to spare. There are fears that other plants could be shut down too. Industry representatives talk of an existential threat. What about the future of the wider UK economy? Many economists think that'll depend less on new trade deals and more on the extent to which Britain remains an open economy.
After Brexit, if we want to prosper in our post-Brexit environment, we're going to have to remain open. And frankly, that is going to be considerably more difficult because the fact of Brexit is it will introduce new barriers to not just trade flows, but also to, in particular, the flows of people. Can we make up for that by retaining generally open policies and being more open to the rest of the world? It's going to be hard, but we'll need to try.
The British car industry and the British economy has come to a fork in the road. The challenge now is to keep the wheels turning.
Ben Chu. Well, I'm joined now by Faiza Shaheen from the think tank Class and George Magnus, former chief economist at UBS. Good evening to both of you. George Magnus, is this about Brexit? Is it about globalisation?
Well, the chief executive officer and the Japanese ambassador have said today, you know, that it's not about Brexit. And your package that Ben Chu just did obviously relays a number of different issues. But we have to think about Honda in the context of about at least 27 other companies that I could not reel off here, but some of them, which have basically all got their own kind of features about why they've stopped investing in the UK or plan to. And I think we begin to see a pattern here of companies that actually just can't deal. I mean, they deal with risk. That's what they're in business to do, is to make money from risky situations. But actually, they can't deal with the unpredictability of Brexit and the cost structures which are going to rise as a consequence. Honda wasn't a very profitable plant in Swindon.
And it was only working to 65% capacity.
Yeah, and you know, and the irony is actually that we in Britain were urging the EU to cut, to agree zero car tariffs with Japan, which they've done. And so Honda are basically now going to relocate their production to Japan and send their cars to the EU tariff-free.
But Faisal Shaheen, just before we talk about the wider economy, still sticking with the car industry, Greg Clark made big efforts with both Honda and Nissan. And of course, we now know that Nissan's not producing its new model here. We now know that Honda is going. That can't just be laid at the feet of the government.
I think there are a number of factors coming together, but I agree. I think certainly Brexit has sped up this transition or this move. And what we hear from workers in these plants is that certainly it feels as if Brexit has meant that some decisions that were maybe 10 years off are suddenly happening right now.
But I suppose what you would say is that the British economy has the capacity to reinvent itself. And actually, if the market for these cars is much more the Asian market, as we know, there's a big market in India, particularly for motorbikes that Honda makes. If that's where the market is and the ease of access to market, that's where it will go. That is globalization.
Yeah, it will go there. And I mean, these companies are looking right now at what we are able or not able to do on negotiations and trade deals. I mean, there's been so many things that have happened even over the last week, right, that have messed up trade deals and, you know, Hammond cancelling trips and the rest of it. And they're not going to have much faith looking at this country and looking forward. But I do think there's a bigger problem here. There's a bigger problem here underlying these issues about automation, about longer-term trends, about manufacturing jobs declining in general.
Well, you can't stop automation. That's just going to happen. We have to have a great expertise in new industries. But when you see that employment is at record levels, either with incredibly skilled workers and low-skilled workers, what happens to the people in these car industries? How do they reskill for new tech?
Well, I mean, I think the lesson of the last 10 or 20 years is that you cannot rely on, you know, quote, globalization to take care of this kind of reallocation that's going on. So, a reallocation of work and reallocation of jobs. So, you know, we do have to be quite careful about, you know, how we get involved and what we do in communities where jobs are being lost.
Yes, so in Swindon, that might be, you know, they may be able to absorb in other areas where there is medium-level tech-skilled jobs. In other areas, like Sunderland, for example, it might be harder. So what do you do? Do you bring in, where are we good at? Are we good at green energy? Are we good at, you know, that kind of development of those kind of industries? Is that where, should we be in manufacturing at all? Should we just be in service?
Look, this is a time for investment. Automation is causing displacement of people. 3,500 people lose their jobs. Absolutely, they have skills, those skills that can be used elsewhere. So this is a time for us to say we need a huge surge of investment in green energy, I would say, in green technology. And there's some really interesting work being done around the world and how you move people. So take these 3,500 people, you map the skills they have and say, actually, this would work really well in, say, solar energy. And this is really a time to be ambitious. This is the only way we can go forward if we're looking at the twin issues of both automation and climate change.
Thank you both very much indeed.
I've been getting